You know, they say never bring a tech geek like me to an Apple store. That's because it means emptying your bank balance. You'll keep buying more products in the ecosystem, but there's so much we already have. But what's new in the Apple lineup that we don't have already? Well, there you go. Bank balance emptied. It's time to unbox the new MacBook Pro with M3 Max. From the Apple Store to the Tech Today studios here in Mumbai, I've already unboxed this fresh from the oven, the new M3 MacBook Pro. Shall I say the M3 Max MacBook Pro, because it can get a bit confusing, but Apple has been as clear as they can be. This is the new silicon, a 3nm process, basically a very powerful chipset, perhaps one of the most powerful chipsets ever on a laptop computer. Now, how have these different M3 chips been positioned? There's the basic M3, you get the MacBook Pro in that as well, but you don't get that in this space black color. Then you get the M3 Pro and then the M3 Max, which is all the bells and whistles and in this new space black color. Now, Apple did a lot in its keynote address to tell us that this is, of course, the new space black color, and it looked amazing there. It looks lovely now as well. But it isn't really a matte black or an entire deep black. It looks very grey, especially in our studio lighting. Now, coming back to the new MacBook Pro, Apple claims they've used some sort of material on this to make this lesser of a fingerprint magnet. There are a bunch of fingerprints on this already, but in all honesty, it seems like a lesser fingerprint magnet than previous models. Now, speaking of specs, it can get confusing on the Apple website when you're trying to mix the permutations and combinations and get the right MacBook. This one is all the bells and whistles. It's the M3 Max. It comes with a 16-core CPU, a 40-core GPU, 128 GB of RAM, 8 terabytes of storage, but you obviously get this in different renditions. You get it all the way from 512 GB, you get a 1 terabyte, 2, 4, and then this 8 terabyte version. Even in terms of RAM, it starts at 8 gigs and goes all the way up to 128 gigs. Now, you might not see much of a bump up from the M1 or the M2 if you go into pure specs. There are performance upgrades, but it's about how Apple optimizes their silicon across the ecosystem to really give you the best performance and battery life. Now, in terms of standby performance, you can get nearly 22 hours with this particular device, watching Apple TV, editing, doing all sorts of graphic intensive tasks. So what this essentially does is gives you a desktop class experience on a laptop. So you don't need to be plugged in all the time, maybe once or twice a day, and then you can carry this around with you, edit whatever you want to, and also a lot of gaming, because that's the big push from Apple. In terms of the display, it's one of the best displays I've ever seen on a laptop. It's an absolutely stunning display, Liquid Retina, XDR, 120 Hz refresh rate, 1600 nits of peak brightness. That means you can take this outside by the poolside, even in the garden if you're working from anywhere, at the airport as well. And that sort of display means you'll be able to see very clearly in dimly lit scenarios and in bright scenarios as well. But you'll also be able to hear very clearly on the MacBook Pro, because this comes with stellar sound. It always has. You have a 6-speaker sound system with force cancelling woofers. The sound is really good on the new MacBook Pro as well. There's also a lot of high-end editing, VFX, AI, AR-based softwares, which the guys at Apple and developers have been working on, which can work for gaming, which can work for mixed reality. Does that really ring a bell? Of course, the Apple Vision Pro is coming in 2024, and it looks like Apple is building the ecosystem to really feed the MVP, or the most valuable player. Just like a football team trying to feed their star player, or a cricket team focusing everything around the central protagonist, which is going to be Apple Vision Pro, something we're very excited about. But these will all be building blocks in making sure that that mixed reality experience is flagship. Now, the 14-inch model that we are reviewing actually comes with a bunch of ports. Our team has been most impressed with the SDXC port, which means when we're shooting these shows, creating content for you as creators, plug it right in over here and start editing. And if you're talking about power, pure power, there's a lot happening on the left side, but over here as well, of course, you have an HDMI in. You have AirPlay on this, so you can cast it onto other devices, but if you want low latency, low lag, you have that as well. You have a MagSafe charger over here, and then you have 3 Thunderbolt ports, 1, 2, the third one over here. And you also have a 3.5mm headphone jack right over here. So honestly, if you want a portable powerhouse or your editing suite on the wheels, on the go, the MacBook Pro is the only device you need. Now let's sum up our initial impressions of this device. We're going to be testing each feature in terms of gaming, also in terms of editing and stuff like that. How much can this help you when you're building a career in AI or AR or VR? I think this is the device for you, but it is very, very expensive, which brings me to my next point. This particular spec with all the bells and whistles is nearly 6.8 lakh rupees. But this is only to showcase how good the technology is. You can obviously get a base M3 for a lot lesser, 1.5, 1.6, 1.7 lakh rupees. And comparing that to an M2 or to the MacBook Air lineup, the higher end versions of the MacBook Air, there's not too much of a difference if you really want that performance, if you really want to do editing, if you want something that's more pro, more portable, and more affordable for all these features put together. But that advice only applies if you are an animator, designer, artist, editor, engineer, researcher. If you're into these fields, then the MacBook Pro is a great option for you. If you're trying to replace your desktop experience and you prefer something more portable, then it's an option for you. And then of course, there's a bunch of other things you can do. You can hook this up to a bigger display, the Mac Studio, all of that as well. But that is a very specific niche. I just wanted to showcase how good technology has gotten, how much it's growing, and what it means for the future. The new Apple MacBook Pro M3 Max, the 14-inch. Stay tuned to Tech Today for more content on this powerhouse.